Welcome back to Battleship Cove, USS Massachusetts. Today we're doing Inside the History on the Battleship Massachusetts and her conning and steering places. Now these are the areas that the ship is actually driven by. For a summed up term, conning and steering the ship are actually two different principles. So we're going to go over that with you here, and we're going to go through the multiple stations that is way Massachusetts was driven. Okay, so up here, we're up here, up on what's called the open bridge, okay, and this is a conning station. Now, a conning station, if you come in and see, we're in the process of restoring the open bridge. Now, Massachusetts, being a battleship, has a armored bridge area, which is isolated and up to 18 inches of steel. I believe it's 16 or 18. Too many numbers, trying to remember. At least 16 inches of steel. So this steel here is grade 8 armor, right? Now this is protected, and you see the slots in it. This is to allow the inside crew to be able to view outside the ship. Now here in the open bridge, in original commissioning state, this was open. It was not glassed in like this. This was done after the war. This is to allow a covered bridge area, protect from the elements and the weather, because standing watch, say in North Atlantic, very cold, very wet. So your ship was supposed to be multi-ocean temperatures, so your conning station here would be protected. So during normal underway steerage in open ocean formation, this would be where the officer of the deck and conning officer would be, as well as the captain and the XO, the two chairs that would be here. All right, they would be here taking charge and directing the officer of the deck, who would give orders to the helmsman and lee helmsman inside the armor. So here you have radar repeaters, you have the captain, sound-powered phone talkers. You'd be able to monitor the ship's rudder angle indicators, as well as your actual power being driven is broken down. Full reverse, 2/3, 1/3, stop, as you can see indicated. So that way the captain sitting here, he would be able to actually view what's going on. So the captain be sitting here, here's your shaft indicators, each one doing what speeds and how many RPMs. So the actual boxes here are for communication pieces, which now are being restored, as well as a compass gyro repeater. Now the actual ship's compass would be back aft, just after the stack on a platform, because the ship's armor has such a effect on a magnetic field that it would distort the compass up here, because you have your armor from your turrets, your citadel, all this steel would affect the magnetic compass, so you couldn't steer by a magnetic compass. So your gyro repeater would be here, which comes from the gyro down below, and the compass would actually be on a platform above the fire control shack. Now that platform is made of aluminum, so it doesn't affect directly the magnetic compass. So that's back aft. We'll look at that a little bit later. But here would be the conning station. With that being done by the senior officers and staff conning the ship, the actual steering of the ship is done inside here. Now, this base is in the process of being restored. So Paul and Chris and the others are slowly restoring this. So the actual bosun mate of the watch and some of the other watch standers would be standing back here with various controls for lighting of the ship, for navigation purposes, as well as underway and communication. The actual helm steerage inside this 16 inches of armor, protected by this door, is a battle station. And this is what you want to control, so you wouldn't be damaged during combat, because if you get a hit here, you wouldn't want it to stop the steerage of the ship. You'd want the conning officer and them protected, so they would pile in here. Now here, what you're seeing is the actual ship's helm. This is where you would normally steer the ship in underway conditions. The conning officer would be out there watching the other formations or other ships or weather, whatever, out there and directing the helmsman. He would just take in orders, repeat them to ensure that they would know that he understood and was executing their orders on command. So every time the helmsman would get a change of orders, helmsman, left full rudder. Left full rudder aye, sir. He'd take it left full, sir. Rudder's left full, because now he's watching the rudder angle indicator, which would tell him what his rudder's actually doing. Rudder's left full, no new course given. If the course was given, the helmsman would repeat the course order to make sure that he would know that he was steering to that. Now, as you can see, you have your repeaters here. All right, gyro repeaters set to go. So you had two of them, one in case one fails, or the other would go. Or you'd have battle damage. Always redundancy. Now, your alarms are set here: collision, chemical, general alarms. They're on the side. That'd be a charge of the bosun mate. The watch would also be in here. He would actually set those off. Now, here are your indicators for all ahead full, back, so forth. Again, this is your actual speed indicators. This would be the RPM indicators that you would send down. The bottom would be what you send. The top would be their reciprocation. It's not automatic. This is not a controlled speed directly from here. It's indirectly. So down in the engine rooms, they would have this box repeated and it come to them, and what they would do, they would open up a steam valve to increase or decrease the speed of the ship. On board this ship, we don't have variable pitch propellers. So you would actually have to stop the shaft and then apply reverse steam to the turbines to spin the shaft in reverse. So it's a really complicated thing they do. Now, if the helm was damaged in any other way, but the indicator would still go, you could actually steer the ship from this little knob. You'd be directing somebody else in aft steering to move the rudders down in the ram room on which way to turn the ship. So he could dial it from here or here. Or if the helm or the rudders are damaged, you could actually direct the ship's shafts for speed, either so much forward one way or back the other to turn the ship. So you can use your shafts as a rudder. Numerous ways to do it. It can be done here, or it can be done at the other conning stations on board. So this being the armored protected area, and this is where your helmet and lee helmsman would be. The lee helmsman is usually one with the sound-powered phones, because the helmsman, you want to have his hands free all the time. The lee helmsman, he can talk on a sound-powered phone what was needed to be done. He would receive the orders, same as a helmsman, and repeat them back. Being a helmsman and a lee helmsman, you'd have to know what orders were directed to you, instead of the officer having to refresh. Lee helmsman, set speed RPMs at 270 RPMs per minute. You wouldn't have to do that. He said, you just give the orders. All back full. RPM indications 270. Lee helmsman will repeat that back to make sure it came through crystal clear and it's fully understood. All right, now we've covered your primary helmsman station here for underway. Coming into port, where you need more delicate overall command and viewing for the conning officer, you'd switch over to the 08 level con. All right, but before that too, you could also, you'd still steer from here, but right above us would be an open con. Now you could con the ship from up there. The officer deck, he wants another, so he doesn't have to run around as much around here, because it may be the captain. The OD could be stationed above on the next deck. Now that's an open conning area. Again, he'll have a radar repeater. He'll have all the communication gear. He'll have the gyro repeater up there as well. It's a functional battleship. If damage was taken at a certain spot, you'd want the ability to switch over rapidly to another command and control point, so that way the ship's direction would not be impeded and endanger the ship or other ships because you lose control. So control is paramount and important. So the helmsman would still be here, but if the outer bridge wings were damaged, it could be conned from just above here. Now if we step out the hatch, you can look up and see the area. Right up here, right now we're on the 08 level. This is the most upper conning station that you would actually con the ship. So conning being that you would direct the helmsman and lee helmsman on orders, but the officers would have the ability to walk around and have a pretty much close to 360-degree view of the ship and its motions and where it has to steer and go for. You would have a compass in here, a repeater. You would have your alarms, sound-powered phone hookups, selection switches. So driving the ship from here, this is where the officer at the deck could actually do it if he had to. Now this would be an opportune point for pulling into port where you had to direct the ship and the tugboats, because now you can view fore and aft. So you do that out here, so this would be a conning station. Okay, so now you would have the conning station, so you could actually communicate to the helmsman down below at any station throughout the ship and the multiple stations that you'll see, and we've seen, as well as up inside the structure here. And we're going to go inside and take a look at the actual connings, the actual helm and lee helm. All right, so now we've come into the actual helm and lee helm area. So your helmsman would be here with the helm, your lee helmsman right here. So he'd have a voice tube, so you can communicate voice outside to the conning officer, as well as a sound-powered phone talker and a bosun mate of the watch. So you could actually con and steer the ship from this particular station on the 08 level.